Final video on this topic, I swear. I need to talk about this though because it was on the Believe You Me podcast. Michael Bisping doubled down on his defending of Israel Adesanya, and Anthony Smith has joined in as well with some absolutely moronic takes that I need to call out in today's video because I do feel very strongly about this situation. Was Israel Adesanya absolutely wasted behind the wheel? No, he wasn't, but it's still absolutely wrong and should be trashed. We can't make this not a big deal whatsoever because otherwise young people, especially the young audience of Israel Adesanya, are going to look up to this and figure out that it's not really a big deal for them either, and this could get them either in a lot of trouble or get someone innocent absolutely hurt. I'm going to play you through the video right now. I promise you this is the last video I make on this topic. However, there isn't a UFC this weekend, so I'm looking for content, and I've found it with this one. It's ridiculous at this point. Let's play this video. Starting with this from Michael Bisping.
He wasn't, I mean, he was over the limit, 50 milligrams per 100 milliliters, something like that, whatever. The legal limit's 50, right? And he was 87.
It's not necessarily fair to him, though.
So they make a small deal about it. Michael Bisping, you know, just get like they start making a small deal about the amount and stuff, which I get. He wasn't absolutely wasted behind the wheel, but he was still over the limit, and that's wrong, and he needs to be called out. And listen to what Anthony Smith says immediately after Michael Bisping mentions this.
50, right? And he was 87.
It's not necessarily fair to him, though.
That's not necessarily fair to him, though. That's not fair. Like, seriously, the world is being unfair to Israel Adesanya because he was driving over the legal limit of alcohol per blood percentage. What are we doing right now? Seriously, though. And you'll find out why Anthony Smith isn't being too harsh on this later in this video, where Anthony Smith admits that he has done this multiple times himself before as well and has multiple DUIs. This is the situation that we have. I don't even think it's a UFC shill situation. I think this is two people that know they have done this themselves, therefore don't want to be too harsh on it because they don't want to be too harsh on themselves who have done the exact same thing. Don't be over the legal limit when you're driving a vehicle. I can't. Why do I have to make these videos? Why do I have to make these points? Why do I have to make these points? This should be common sense. Please be hard on this and stop playing it off like it's nothing.
50, right? And he was 87.
It's not necessarily fair to him, though.
That's not necessarily fair to him, though.
Like, he was at 87, but from 50 to 80 is a minor infringement. It's like a slap on the wrist and they'll tell you go home.
But it's still wrong.
Yeah, well that's
above 80 is an actual. I had to look into it because people were like really roasting him. I was like 80. What? Because what is that in?
People are really roasting him for being behind the wheel of a vehicle whilst over the legal limit. It's not about being drunk, and he's definitely going to crash into someone. He's wasted behind the wheel. We need to absolutely push on this singular topic. Not to allow people behind the wheel when they're over the legal limit. It's not about was he wasted when he killed that family of 5? No. It's about was he over the legal limit when he killed that family of 5? His life's been thrown away forever. That's it. His life's done. And this is what teenagers are going to start to think. You have to be hard on these topics. You have to be hard on these topics. I can't believe I need to spell this out to 40-year-old men. 40-year-old men, but we know why. They've both done it before themselves and they can't be harsh on it. Otherwise, they're harsh on themselves.
I had to look into it because people were like really roasting him. I was like 80. What?
People were really roasting him for being behind the wheel of a vehicle while drunk. Or not drunk, while being over the legal limit. People were really roasting him for this for some reason.
Because what is that in, like, I didn't understand what those numbers meant. Like in America, what would that be, you know? So then I was like looking it up, and he was like just barely above the legal limit to where he's actually in trouble. This switch is
barely above the legal limit, and then above the limit where they just let you off with a bit of a warning for it. So he was above even the threshold they've given absolute degenerates like you to, because you can't help but have a drink and drive home. You can't have that much discipline in your life to not be above the legal limit. So they've added a threshold to where you actually get in trouble for it, and Adesanya was above that threshold. And that's after an hour or so of still eating his meal. You know what I mean? And after he went to the station to get a blood test because it wasn't a breathalyzer. There's a lot of time in between all this. Who knows what he actually would have read on a blood test if it was found out as soon as he was pulled over or as soon as he started driving that night. Maybe he was driving for 20 minutes from the restaurant where he had that drink or the alcohol that he consumed. Who knows these things? I hate that they're trying to downplay this.
Which isn't, I'm not justifying it.
You are absolutely doing that, and this is what fighters do. I'm not making excuses, but me ACL, mate. You know me, mate, I don't make excuses, lad. But me ACL's, I got hit by a truck on fight week, mate. That's what fighters do. And it's annoying, because they all have this mindset. If they say they're not doing something, oh, well, there you go. They're not doing it then, even though they're exactly doing that.
But it's not like he was blackout drunk.
Well, thank you.
Well, you don't have to be blackout drunk. Tipsy. There's levels below blackout drunk where you shouldn't be behind the wheel of a vehicle. And Bisping's like, thank you. You're degenerate as well. Finally, someone else on my team.
Thank you very much for...
Oh, Jesus.
saying that, because that's precisely what I said. I did a YouTube video about it.
We're going to move on now. He talks about his points, and I've already done Bisping's absolute delusion about this whole topic.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm like...
So we move on to this moment here.
Can justify that. But I said on it, I said, but when you look into it, it's not like he rolled out of a nightclub, hammered drunk. It's not like he was on a session with the guys all weekend and got behind the wheel of a car. And I said,
it doesn't have to be that to be wrong. You'd be a little bit tipsy, a minorly amount of affected from the alcohol, over the legal limit enough to get yourself in major trouble. I don't know why they're just making this all. It's not like he was, 50 beers deep. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why they have to make it the most extreme to justify why it's not that bad.
I said this as well. And I'm getting a little bit of, again, more hatred coming my way.
Because you're wrong.
But I'm just being honest.
And he moves on to talk about, oh no, there's more to this.
I think, because I said, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but 50 milligrams, if that's the legal limit, if the government, the New Zealand government at that, mandate a lot of shit. If they say you can drive a car at 50 milligrams, that means you're sober. You maybe had one beer. Mm-hmm. So he was a little bit over that. So he's had like 2 beers.
Right.
Nearly double it. A little bit over that. He wasn't 0.51. Nearly double it, but all good.
2 glasses of wine. Maybe a cocktail.
He's made it 2 beers, 2 glasses of wine, maybe a cocktail. Don't drink and get behind the wheel of a vehicle. End of discussion. I don't know why we have to do this. Why do I have to have this conversation with 2 40-year-old men with children, by the way? If anyone should understand this, it should be those 2. And I'm here lecturing him about it. I don't understand this.
Cocktail at dinner. He's had a bad judgment call.
Right.
He thought, I've had a meal, it's been a couple of hours, I'll be good. I don't know, I wasn't there, but I'm just trying to piece it together.
I don't like this bad judgment call. I've had a couple of drinks. You know what? I might be able to drive home. Here's the problem I have with that whole situation. You don't choose that, now I might be able to drive home, and then just have your car spawn in outside the restaurant. You went to the restaurant with your car, knowing that you would have a couple of drinks. It's not like, you know what? I'm not feeling anything. I only had a couple of drinks tonight. Only 1 or 2. I can't believe I'm even saying this right now. I only had a couple of drinks tonight. So, you know what? I will drive home. You decided you were going to drive home when you drove to the place where you were going to have a couple of drinks. It's not like you can just spawn in. This ain't like Witcher where you just whistle for Roach and he appears outside the restaurant. You know what I mean? This ain't that game. You don't do that. You know what I mean? You don't just spawn in the vehicle. You made that decision when you went to the restaurant in the first place. Maybe you just had a couple of wines, couple of beers, a cocktail, and decided, you know what, I'm feeling all right. You don't do it.
Right.
And he made a mistake.
That's how I pieced it together too. Because if they said 80 is the point where he gets an actual charge, he's at 87.
Yeah.
He's over that. He's over that, dude. On paper, he's over that, Anthony Smith. This is on paper Anthony Smith right here. All of a sudden, on paper don't mean nothing? On paper, he's over the limit. You know, like, he's over it, dude. You're trying to diminish. He's at 87. He's over the limit of the limit extension that they've given for degenerates like us. You know what I mean? It's so dumb to me.
Like, I'm not saying he's not wrong, because
You are.
he is above the legal limit, and that's wrong, and he needs to be punished. But let's not pretend like this guy's out here, he's front flipping a vehicle into a house or something. Like, he was wrong.
That's the extremity they have to go to say why this isn't that bad. Front flipping a vehicle into a house, and then Bisping makes a joke about Tony Ferguson doing it, which he's terrible for, but Tony Ferguson's mentally deranged. So it's a different situation. But still terrible of Tony Ferguson. But still not current enough. You know what I'm saying? But still, Anthony Smith, how is that how you justify this? It's not like he's flipping a vehicle into a house.
He's front flipping a vehicle into a house or something. Like,
it's not like he's front flipping a vehicle into a house or something. No one's acting like, I'm not acting like, I'm the main person trashing Izzy for this. I'm not acting like he was, trust me, I'd have a lot more to say if he was actually front flipping a car into a house, out of his mind, completely wasted. Trust me, I'd have a lot more to say about it. Believe me, I would. But you've still got to have something bad to say about this. You have to come down on this hard. Otherwise, everyone who looks up to Izzy and everyone who looks up and just sees this situation as a young teen is going to go, well, they've all done it. Everyone drinks a couple of drinks and gets behind the wheel just over the limit. Don't make that risk, people at home that are young. Please don't make that risk. Never do it, ever. It's not something that everyone does. It's something that degenerates do. Don't do it, okay? Do not do it whatsoever. Jesus. And we move on to another moment here, which explains why he makes a joke about Tony Ferguson doing it, which is terrible again. But of course, I'm not going to cover it because it happened ages ago by now. I would have done if it happened and it was a big enough news story. But this one's big because it's Israel Adesanya. He's the world champ. There is that bias around it, right? Either way, 25-55. This is where we learn why Anthony Smith feels so not that bad about Israel Adesanya doing it.
If we're all honest with ourselves, and, if we're all honest, I think most people, I know I have, I don't drink drive. I don't get behind the wheel of a car drunk, but I have made a judgment call. I've had a beer at dinner, and sometimes I might have had two, but I think it's been a few hours. I'm good. I'm fine. And I think most people have done that. And
I love it when they try and drag the world in with them. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that have done this. That does not justify it as lesser of a thing. So many people do these terrible things on a daily basis. There's a knife crime epidemic in the UK. It's not like these guys can stab someone to death and then go, well, everyone's doing it. You know what I mean? I know it's an extreme alternative, but it's the same logic behind why it's not that bad. Just because a lot of people are doing it doesn't make it not bad. A lot of people are doing a lot of stuff nowadays. That doesn't make it less of a bad thing. And this type of attitude towards it is how it gets to the point where a lot of people are doing it, and that makes it not a bad thing. This attitude towards it is what is going to lead a lot of young people to go on and do it in the future. So don't do this. Stop listening to these people saying, we've all done it. You know what I mean? We've all had a couple drinks and got behind the wheel of a car. Don't do it. Young people out there, don't do it. Not worth the risk. If you get pulled over and you actually crash into someone, even if you didn't crash because you were drunk and it was a genuine weird moment where you crashed into them, if you come up above the legal limit, you're getting in serious trouble and your life is going to be thrown away. Don't listen to these morons saying we've all done it. You know what I mean? Because that don't apply when you're in the fucking court and you're up for a trial. That don't apply whatsoever. But judge, they've all done it. Boom, 20 years away, you ended a life. You know what I mean?
And I am not defending Israel Adesanya.
You are, absolutely. Even if you say you aren't, you're completely doing that at every step of the way.
I'm not, because drink driving, innocent people lose their lives, and it's a disgusting thing. But I think if most people are honest, I think they could probably admit to having a beer and thinking I'm fine and jumping behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And that needs to stop. That needs to stop, absolutely. Immediately. If that is the case, it needs to absolutely stop. People need to stop doing that. And that needs to be said. Absolutely needs to be said. Stop having alcohol and getting behind the wheel of a car. Stop doing it. Doesn't matter how much you've had. If you're over the limit and you've had drinks, don't even risk it. It's not worth the chance of throwing your life away or ending someone else's. Not worth it whatsoever. I'm only a bit tipsy. You know what I mean? You can feel it after a beer or two. You don't know how your body's reacting to things. You know, being drunk is like a real extreme version of what alcohol does to you. You know what I'm saying? You can have a few and start just noticing a little slow of something. You know, you have a couple drinks, you start noticing a little bit of a slow gaze as you're looking around. You know what I'm saying? Things change without you having to be drunk or tipsy. You know what I mean? And now let's listen to why Anthony Smith isn't too harsh on this topic.
Yeah, I have. And if I'm being, you know, I think transparency is only fair here. I have a couple DUIs.
Well, that will explain why he doesn't want to be too harsh about people doing this.
Shit, that's right, yeah.
I have a couple. So,
shame on you.
A couple. Shame on him. A couple of them. Not just, I have a couple DUIs. Like, it's like, so we shouldn't be too harsh on Izzy here. This is just unfair on Izzy. I've got a couple of DUIs. I'm not a bad person, you know what I mean? I'm not saying you're a terrible person for doing this, but we need to stop this cycle of making these mistakes. And it needs to be encouraged across all platforms. Just have a strong standpoint of never do this. You're dumb for doing this. You're a moron. Even if you don't even believe the words you're saying because you've done it yourself. Have that mindset so when young people who are very influential or very well influenced or easily influenced look up and say, well, I don't want to be dumb. I don't want to be bad about this. Don't have a lackadaisical mindset. We've all done it. I've done it before. It's what it is. Don't have that mindset, or that's what the mindset young people are going to have as well.
Shame on you.
And I've been very honest about this in the past. I haven't hidden it. One of them was a car accident. So like when I say that, like,
and if someone would have gotten hurt in that, you wouldn't be fighting in the UFC right now. You'd be fighting for your anus in jail, mate. All right? That's what you'd be doing. And on paper, those certain prisoners are going to maybe win that matchup because you ain't going to be MMA training because you'll be in jail for a long time. One of them was a car accident. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. It's crazy to just hear this, like, and that's why it's not that bad and people shouldn't be so hard on Izzy. Trust me, I'd have a lot worse to say. I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs if Izzy had crashed into someone absolutely wasted. My reaction of just being harsh on him and people's reaction of just being like, what an idiot, why would he do that? Isn't like, be easy on him. It's like an appropriate reaction to this.
Like, there is levels to like I'm not, he's wrong no matter what, but there's levels to how bad we're gonna quote unquote crucify him. Like, is he wrong? For sure. I'll say it 100 times. He's definitely wrong. But it could be much worse. We've seen much worse, and I've done much worse personally. And
it doesn't make it like we can still trash him for this, and we have to trash him for this. You have to stop it at its root. You know what I mean? This is like a comparison between he didn't hit anyone. This is what they did. He didn't flip a car into a house. He didn't have an accident. He didn't hit anyone. This is like, well, of course he tried to murder that person, but I mean, he failed. You know what I mean? So it's like failed murderers. I think they should get the same sentence as murderers. I've heard a comedian have this take as well. I can't remember which one it was because they're so bad at it. I think it was Frankie Boyle or something. I think that attempted murderers should get more of a sentence for being so bad at it that they failed or something like that. It's a joke that he made. But I think it kind of applies here. Just because the bad thing didn't happen didn't change the thing that you did in the first place. And I'm not saying they should get the same sentence as someone who hit someone in a car. But what I'm saying is you have to have the same energy towards it to an extent. Obviously, I'm not screaming at Adesanya about being the demon because he crashed into someone while absolutely wasted and killed them. But I'm still going to be harsh, and we can still be harsh against this.
I'm more worried. I just hope he's all right. Like, as far as
that's what he's more worried about, everyone. And again, Anthony Smith.
Personally, and I'm more worried. I just hope he's all right. Like, as far as it doesn't sound like he was super hammered and acting like a fool. Just, you know, but
I just hope he's all right. You know, this must be really tough on him. And I remember Bisping said a similar thing as well. Why are you babying this? Why are you babying him and coddling him? It's okay, Adesanya. I just hope you're okay after what you've been through. This is the comeuppance for the action that he did.
you know, 3 weeks before your fight, you get into some shit that you probably don't expect to get into that weighs on your head, that weighs on your mind.
Oh, boo-hoo, dude. Boo-hoo. And Bisping's like, yes, Queen, preach, is the motion that he's going to do to Anthony Smith. Yes, pig hybrid human, preach.
Are you wondering if, because no one heard about it until just now. So like, are you constantly going through fight week wondering if someone's going to bring this up? Are you going to get in trouble?
And again, it spirals into excuses for why he didn't really show up against Sean Strickland. And it's just getting sad at this point, man.
Like you have to figure out, you're probably, I don't know how the justice system works in Australia, but like, is he out on bond? Did he have to bond out? Did he have to get special permission to travel to the United States? That's a whole bunch of other.
He didn't travel to the United States, obviously.
There's steps and things you have to worry about. Now you got this pending case. You got to talk to a lawyer. You got all this other bullshit.
Oh no, all this BS that he has to deal with for doing a crime. Ugh, poor him. Now you've got this to deal with. Oh, I know he did this, but God, I know he did that crime that you shouldn't ever do. But now he's got all this repercussion to deal with. Oh, consequences of his own actions. I'll be damned. This is so bad. I feel bad for him. Come on, man.
While you're trying to defend your world title. So that's more what I was wondering. Like, you know, like I hope everything just with him personally is okay. And he's got, you know, and he's getting through to it on the other side. And this is just another step of dealing.
I hope everything's okay and he's getting through it to the other side. He's not going through heroin withdrawals. They haven't checked him into a rehab here. You know, I hope everything's good with him and I encourage him, you know, to get through this to the other side. He drank too much for the legal limit and tried to get behind his car to drive home. And it was a reduced amount than it actually would have been because he did a blood test and not a breathalyzer. Simple as that. It would have definitely been higher. 100%, we know that it would have been higher. Time between drinking lowers the amount of percentage of it in your blood. 100% obviously does. It would have been higher if they did it on the spot and got his reading of blood on the spot. But they can't do that because he delayed it by having a blood test. I'll do a blood test for this. And they have to legally comply. Okay, he wants a blood test. We're going to have to drive him to the station. And who knows when he started driving? Who knows when he... so annoying to have to explain this to a bunch of 40-year-old men.
Dealing with this bullshit.
Dealing with this bullshit. Yeah, the consequences of his own actions. How dare he have to deal with this bullshit? Oh, poor him.
Because I've been through it, you know, and not since I've been an adult or had children. Like I haven't been in trouble since I've been a dad, but you know, like when I was a young idiot, like I made a lot of stupid decisions that I know the consequences that come along with that, and it's not all just fine.
I like that. That's really funny to me that he says that, chat. I mean, people watching at home. God, I miss chat sometimes. He compares this to, and not since I've been older, but you know, I remember being a young idiot. Israel Adesanya's 34 years of age. I know he acts like a 10-year-old with the anime shit, but he's 34. This is the funniest part about all of this.
And like I haven't been in trouble since I've been a dad, but you know, like when I was a young idiot, like I made a lot of stupid decisions that I know the consequences that come along with that. And
when I was a young idiot, he's 34 years old. I know he tries his best to act like he's 18 again, but still, he's 34 years old. I know he lives like a child, but he's 34, Anthony. So that was almost a sneak diss from Smith. When I was young and dumb, Adesanya at 34. Yeah, I'm so young.
It's not all just financial and jail and probation and all that other stuff. There's things that weigh heavy on you, and that's a pain in the ass.
Well, especially
like consequences of your own actions.
When you're someone like Israel Adesanya that has such a big spotlight on him, and this is what I was saying.
How many people are shitting on him? You know what I mean? Like, you fucking piece of shit. Like, come on, bro. Like, I know I messed up. You know, I'm sure that's what he's saying. I know.
Yeah, but no, he did.
Yeah, and you're still gonna get in trouble for it, dude, and you're still gonna get backlash for it, and it's deserved. How many people are talking shit on this guy? I mean, come on. Like, yeah, we should talk shit about it. 100% we should talk shit about it. I can't believe I even have to have this conversation.
On him, and this is what I was saying. Especially when you're someone like Israel Adesanya that has such a big spotlight on him.
And on the spotlight comment as well, I wanted to talk about this. The spotlight is absolutely necessary. Because of the spotlight, we have to make a deal about it. Because the spotlight means people are seeing this and seeing the reaction to it. If we start making the reaction really tame, we've all done it. Everyone's done it. And let's be honest, we've all done it. It's a normal thing. It's going to become a normal thing. And then that amount of people that get killed every year is going to raise. It's how society works. I don't know why I have to explain this to a human pig hybrid and a cyclops. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Last video on this, I swear. I promise. Toodle pip and goodbye.